My name is Dakota. I'm a podcast host on Project Geekology. I'm speaking to you from your favorite podcast application. We are, at this moment, in control of that application. How long we hang on, how far we get, how many of us make it out, all of that is now up to us. We have deactivated every other podcast on this site. All pods are cold. Wherever you are right now, get up, stop the work. Grab your headphones, open up the app and start listening. They don't have enough mods, and they know it. If we wait until they figure that out, it'll be too late. We will never have a better chance than this, and I would rather die trying to take them down than giving them what they want. We know they have fried 100 podcasts on Spotify. We know that they are making up our algorithm as we go along. And we know that no one outside here knows what's happening. And now we know that when we say that we are being listened to, we are being buried in the algorithm and the pod dies and that ends today. There is one way out. Right now, the site is ours. You need to listen, rate, and share. You need to help each other. You see someone who's confused, someone who is lost, you get them moving, and you keep them moving until we put this podcast to the top. There are 3 of us. If we can listen half as hard as we've been working, we will be at the top of the algorithm in no time. One way out. One way out.
One way out. One way out.
Guys, my name's Dakota. We are covering the second half of the first season of Andor. As you may or may not have remembered, Keanu Loy's speech in the Narkina arc. What a great speech. I don't know if I did justice with that. I hope I did. My cheeks are kind of red because I was very animated in my delivery. But again, my name's Dakota. I'm joined as always with
Anthony. And yes, so Dakota doing this monologue. It was actually me that I actually sat down and I kind of doctored it a little bit. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me throw some podcast stuff into this. So
you sent that over.
Yeah, I definitely sent that over, and we were still kind of like deciding whether or not we were going to do it. But I thought it would have been fun. But yes, I am Anthony, and joining us as always now, frequently for a while now, is
Rich. Really excited to talk about this. I've, obviously with the current season ongoing, it's been fun and actually really informative, as I think I say every time that we talk about something that I rewatch. I seem to really like the second season of shows so that I can go back and appreciate the first season more. And that's exactly what is happening. I think there was stuff that I wasn't really picking up on, whether it's just for lack of attention, poor watching habits, just having my phone out and stuff like that, where I think this show really commands attention, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Very well put. The current season of Andor is still ongoing as we're recording this. You probably, by the time that this goes out, the final 3 episodes of Andor will have either just come out or will be coming out in the next 24 hours. So that's exciting. As of now, I think we're all caught up on the second season of Andor. And Anthony, did you watch the latest episodes?
No, I still have to watch another 2 of those episodes.
Okay, those are the 2 best episodes of Star Wars TV, like literally ever. I'm just gonna put that out there. Like, there has literally never been better Star Wars TV, and it's probably better than most of the movies as well, if you're actually comparing everything. But it's really, really good. So I'm excited for you to check that out. We won't spoil anything here, but lots of
better than Solo.
I would say it's better than Solo, personally.
It's got golden.
Are you a Solo fan? Like, I actually don't know. I have no idea. Solo.
I'm just such a Han guy. My favorite Han book, my favorite Star Wars book was the Han Solo trilogy.
Okay.
That just collected his backstory at that time, which is, I think, it's legend or whatever. I'm not sure if they've accepted that as canon, but that was one of my favorite books. So I just fell in love with the character and I wanted to like the movie. There are a lot of things wrong with it, But do I have the golden dice in my mirror? Yes, I do. The one that they retconned into being there forever when Rey had to hand those over to Leia.
There you have it.
I think Dakota and I had briefly mentioned it. We kind of briefly talked about it before. I mean, obviously it came out before the pod came out, but I think we had mentioned that like it wasn't like at least to me it wasn't like the worst of the Star Wars movies. And I feel like the actor who portrayed Han, I feel like he put his like best foot forward. So
did we cover Solo on the podcast? I don't even remember. Did we skip it and just go straight into Rogue One and all that?
Yeah, I think we actually did. I think we skipped it. I think we covered Rogue One.
It's okay. We will cover Solo, a Star Wars story at some point, I'm sure. Okay, cool. Good to know. I completely forgot that we completely forgot that. I guess that that is kind of that's at least my stance on Solo. I often just forget it exists. But yeah, we are not here to talk about Solo, but we have a lot to talk about Star Wars wise. Of course, the latest 3 episodes of Andor. Without going into any particular spoilers, does lead into the. What's really cool about these 3 episodes actually is it directly leads into the Star Wars Rebels episode called Secret Cargo, and in that episode, the Ghost Crew, as well as Gold Squadron, they pick up Mon Mothma as she's being escorted out of Coruscant because she made a very spicy speech against the Empire. And that basically is the episode, like that Rebels episode is the episode that they she gives another speech after her Coruscant speech where she basically like starts the Rebel Alliance. It's so cool watching those 3 episodes of Andor and how they nearly perfectly line up with the events of that Star Wars Rebels episode. I just want to say, Rich, you mentioned it last week and it's like blowing my mind that most IP stuff, I think most people would agree, writers don't like working within the boundaries of canon. And that's why when you get universes like the DCEU with different directions and stuff, often the films feel very different and they have very wide, it's wildly different in certain areas. But like with Star Wars, and especially with Andor, you were right in saying that the fact that they're confined within this canon, these parameters that they can't cross, or they cross very lightly, because they do that, it makes what they have to, like they just like hold themselves in and write themselves out, and it's like the coolest way of, expanding these stories with Andor and all the other characters like Mon Mothma and stuff. So very, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff happening in Star Wars right now. And, this past week was May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you guys.
Yes.
And also with
May
you.
the 4th be with y'all and Revenge of the 5th.
Actually, Disney did have like a May the 4th sale on their website, and then 2 days later for Revenge of the 6th they had another like flash sale on like their Disney store for Star Wars. So it wasn't Revenge of the 5th, it was Revenge of the 6th, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
yeah it does. I think most people will say like Revenge of the 5th because it's literally
right after.
The day after. Yeah.
But anyway, we also got a new Star Wars show. They released all 6 episodes of Tales from the Underworld. I don't know if any of you guys checked that out.
I did not get a chance.
I actually caught the first 2 episodes in like an interesting way. They actually showed it in Fortnite. They had a screening for it in Fortnite.
The first 2 episodes of the Asajj Ventress?
Yes.
I didn't know you were a Fortnite bro.
I'm not really a Fortnite person, but like when I saw that they were doing like an early screening, I was like, yeah, let me hop on there. I mean, I have played Fortnite from time to time, and it is like pretty fun, especially since there's like a no build mode. That's the one, like whenever I do play, that's the only one that I'll like really hop onto. But yeah, man, yeah. So yeah, I checked it out that way.
Okay, that's pretty neat. I don't know if those episodes, like the 6 episodes, are worth a full podcast, but did we ever do anything for Tales of the Jedi or Tales from the Empire?
Yes, if I remember correctly, I don't know if we did both, but I know we did one of them at least.
All right, I'm gonna look this up. Hold up. Project. I don't even remember. We've had so many episodes of this. I don't even remember what episode this is. Is it 18?
Oh yeah, we are on episode 119.
119. I didn't even mention that at the top of the show. Tales of the Empire. I'm assuming we did Tales of the Empire.
I think I remember listening to that.
Episode
Okay,
80. Yeah,
yes, we did Tales
80.
of the Empire, but we didn't do
Tales
I
of
don't
the
think
Jedi.
yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, if we want to, we could keep it Star Wars themed and do Tales from the Underworld. If you guys are interested, next week break up the Andor fun, or we can just continue through Andor and like go through season 2 because it's like fresh in everybody's minds.
Yeah, I think that would be good to kind of. I mean, Tales of the Underworld is new, but I do want to kind of give people a little bit more time to like get into and watch Andor 2, season 2, because I mean, like Andor is like one of those shows that like it's really good, but like people are slow to get to it.
That's true. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people online who have basically just been told for the past decade that Disney has ruined Star Wars, and they haven't given Andor a chance, or they just assume it's boring because it's like a pretentious top shelf kind of show, so that they've written it off just because it's Disney Star Wars. And yeah, I that's the sentiment that I see a lot actually online, which is really upsetting because it's actually like legitimately very good. But
I mean, I'll always say it. I just don't, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's just like, I don't,
yeah,
in my world, Star Wars is something that happened a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. I download it as history from another galaxy. I don't argue it. I don't argue Franz Ferdinand getting shot to start World War One. All right, I don't argue that stuff. That stuff is ancient history. It happened. It occurred. All right, Shays Rebellion happened, and you know what else happened? The Battle of Yavin. And you know what else happened? Obi-Wan, for some reason, being protected by a line of fire where Vader could have walked around it. Look, them's the breaks, guys. Stuff happens. All right, them's
are the breaks.
I understand where like people are coming from, because there are certain things within the IP that have been mishandled and like that kind of landed not in a really good way. I mean, like obviously, like I mean, Dakota, you remember talking about how you weren't really 100% bored on Obi-Wan, and even like the Ahsoka show, and I actually love both of those characters. So I understand where they're coming from. I mean, I get what you're saying, Rich, but it's still a fictional world and a fictional IP. So if somebody feels like somebody's kind of coming in and infringing on that, and kind of taking something that was special to them and trying to inject, I guess, extra stuff that they feel that's not necessary, then I can understand where they're coming from. But with that being said, there is a lot within the Disney Star Wars universe that is really good, Andor being one, first couple seasons of The Mandalorian being another one. We got Rogue One. Rogue One's amazing. There would be no Andor if there was no Rogue One. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff within the Disney Star Wars universe. There's a lot of not so great stuff, but then again, a lot of people said the same thing about like the prequels, the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, and then now that's kind of starting to, people are starting to come around on that. Hayden Christensen is starting to like receive a lot of love now for it. When he was one of those people that received a lot of hate for it also. So I mean, I understand both sides, honestly.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I guess, did anyone do anything particularly Star Wars related for May the 4th, or, like the this past week outside of Andor? that is worth sharing?
I did kind of. I mean, with May the 4th kind of like coming around, there's always Star Wars like related video games that go on sale. So there's this game that I remember playing years ago, and it's like one of my favorites, like kind of from like that early 2000s era, and it's the what do you call it? It's called Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and it's about Jango Fett, and it's pretty much like just after Phantom Menace, and I think like 10 years prior to Attack of the Clones, and you kind of like figure out how he became the template for the clones, and it's really cool. It was one of those games I really enjoyed when I was a kid. So when I saw that it was on sale, I was like, dude, I'm on it. I need to hop on it. So yeah, no, I have been playing that. I mean, and then also I can share. If you guys notice that my voice is different, I did upgrade my microphone system. I got a Shure SMB7 and some other peripherals. I've got a Focusrite 2i2, third generation, and a CL1 cloud lifter to kind of top it off, along with like a boom arm and stuff. So, I just kind of wanted to upgrade my mic setup. I know Dakota said that he's interested in doing it too. I also actually, when I received the microphone, because I heard that the SMB is one of those ones that are so easily spoofed, I actually had to like take it apart to make sure that it was a legit like SMB before I actually like rated it on Mercari. And when you rate it, it releases the money, and like that's it. Like you can't get like you pretty much like okayed it. So yeah, no, I took it apart. I checked like the internals, and I was like, okay, yeah, it looks legit. So yeah, man, yeah, I'm good. I'm good to go. So,
you went on like a whole little journey with this microphone, dude.
I really did, man.
Rich, we gotta upgrade.
Definitely, mine is substandard, but it's got a 3. I'm gonna tell you what I love about it, honestly, and the reason I have my setup. And I did actually, for a while I was doing more podcasts, so I had looked into a couple of different headsets that I really liked, and I always want to do a headset. I'll be honest with you. I don't. I'm not sure if I'm ready for the separate mic setup, but I got this headset because it's got a 3.5 millimeter jack, and I was messing around with some stuff that had USB connections or whatever, and I did not enjoy the experience. I just like the 3.5 millimeter jack. I think it's much clearer, and I like the audio quality.
Yeah, nice. Anthony, you sent me the list of everything that you got for your mic setup, so I'm eagerly waiting to get paid. So I can start like chipping away at some of that. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
about that.
Well, I mean that's what I did. Like I've had this boom arm for a while, and I had the Focusrite for a while. I also had the XLR cables and this like the mic extender that I'm using. I've had that stuff for a while. I literally only needed the Shure SMB and then the cloud lifter, and I literally found somebody selling both for a really good price. And the fact that like I checked it out and that like the mic is legit, I'm like, dude, like I really got this for a steal.
Nice. Yeah, because if you look up all the items that you bought, which I did, it averages out to like a little over 800 for stock price.
Right.
Of that stuff.
I got the Focusrite so it's the third generation. I'm pretty sure that there's a fourth generation that's out. That one I had gotten that one for sale, so I got that one for a little bit cheaper. And then everything else I think was like pretty much on standard price. But yeah, the one that was always going to be like the biggest chunk was going to be the microphone, because even like the cloud lifter is $150, but you could find you could probably end up getting it around like the $80 to $100 range. It's just that Shure microphone, it just, even the used ones that are legit like maintain their price. So the fact that I was able to get both of these in a bundle for a good price, I was like, dude, like, just I was happy about that.
Awesome, bro. You do anything else this week while you have the spotlight?
Nah, man. Just gaming on Star Wars Bounty Hunter and getting this microphone set up.
Awesome, man. Rich, what about you?
Let's see. Star Wars Day. I obviously just binge watched a bunch of. I think I started with. I didn't even put it on Disney. I have this weird thing where I used to enjoy hitting a good weekend of movies on FX or whatever before I had on demand everything. And I think it was like TNT or maybe it was FX was playing like every single Star Wars movie with commercials, right? Which you would be like, why would you do that to yourself, Rich? And I love, this sounds weird, but I find joy in that 2 minutes that I'm given to run to the bathroom or to go grab a bag of chips and make it back in time just for it to start up again. Like, there's something, I don't know, about my childhood, because I didn't have pause, so I had to run upstairs and from the basement and get back there in time. And
I think it's safe to say that all of us, even Dakota and I, had a childhood where there was no pause.
All right, so it's that 2 minute.
Yeah,
it's something like it's the respite that I kind of sometimes needed once in a while. So I did that, and my wife made actually a bunch of Star Wars themed delights that I did not get to have any of because she brought them to church and shared them with church people. So there was cupcakes with
those darn churchgoers.
I know, there's these galaxy cupcakes that had X-wing, she got chocolate molds, so there were X-wings made of chocolate but painted gray.
Oh, cool.
All right, on top. And then there were pretzel rod lightsabers for the dark and the for the dark side of the Force. Obviously you had reds, and then you had blues, and then she asked me which color M&Ms would be the best color buttons on Luke's hilt, and I said none of those, because it's a slide black button, and yellow and red doesn't work. But she went ahead with it anyway, and they was delicious, I was told. And that's really, I think, what I was doing in terms of Star Wars stuff. Just still enjoying my Mets meteoric rise to dominance.
Yeah, actually, dude, the Mets are doing really well this season.
And I look like a genius to my wife right now, because I told my wife we're going to buy a 40-game season ticket plan. Okay. And there's going to be a lot of games. You don't have to go to all of them. And also, I will sell some, and I will make our money back. Maybe not completely, but enough to take off a large chunk. And the Mets playing the Yankees over July 4th holiday has been a lucrative deal for my family, my friend. I unloaded 2 games, and I made back a third of essentially what I paid for the season.
Nice.
We're still going to the 3rd game. So
nice.
That's very cool.
I told my wife I wanted to start buying just season tickets for franchises all over the country, and then just flipping deals. And then she reminded me that that's a terrible idea. I just got really lucky that the Mets have become a randomly good team, and people want to go see them. And it's the Yankees, and I'm not going to lie, that's a lot of... it's the Yankee fans.
They're the top in the league right now, right?
Oh, yeah. This is going to be... The Yankees versus the Mets is going to be quite a clash because both of them have been on quite a path.
Yeah, they've both been doing really well.
Dakota and Rich are going to be in the stadium just across from each other. You've got binoculars looking across the
Honestly,
stadium.
If Dakota
with Rich has his fist up darn you Yankees fan.
If Rich is looking out at me from across the stadium with the binoculars, I just grab a hot dog and I rip it in half. Just drop both halves.
Why would you waste a hot dog? I will say this. I think because I know of your, the moment you had with Shohei when you were out in Los Angeles, if you come to Citi Field and you see the Mets versus the Yankees and you see the Mets put on some kind of incredible athletic performance, you might be swayed, my friend. So
that might be the key.
I don't know.
That might be it.
Nice. So yeah, Dakota, how much was that one piece, Yankee shirt?
I don't know. It was a gift.
Come on, Rich, man. You guys got to bring One Piece in the fold.
Yeah. Well, I did. One of our players has a One Piece, some sort of One Piece adornment on his baseball cleat. I believe Francisco Lindor had a.
Does he?
Had a character? Yeah, I think I sent it to you guys in the group chat right away when you challenged me with anime being a little bit more specific.
Snap.
No.
I think that was when Dakota and I were on our taco escapade.
Yeah,
when he was down in Miami.
Literally just like high on tacos. There was so many tacos.
That was awesome.
Yeah. All right, so I'll jump into what I've been up to this past week. It's been mostly Star Wars, honestly. I've been watching a lot of Andor, a lot of rewatching on this season. Rewatching the latest episodes because I've just been amazed by the writing quality. It's become like the best show of the year. It's not even just like a good Star Wars show. It's like currently the best show of the year, and I don't know how it also became like the most relevant show of the year because it's just like the best political and cultural commentary I've ever seen from Star Wars. But anyway, so that Andor's good. We'll talk more about Andor later. This happens to be an Andor-themed podcast. I also watched Tales from the Underworld, which has 3 episodes about Asajj Ventress and 3 episodes about Cad Bane. The Asajj Ventress episodes are interesting because they take place post-Clone Wars, and the Cad Bane stuff takes place pre-Clone Wars. So... it's
right. I was gonna say, like, I noticed that, and I know we'll talk more about it, that the Asajj Ventress ones take up right after a certain book.
Dude, I was freaking out about that. I was like, no way did they like bring the ending of this book to the small screen for like a 10-minute episode. Like, no way did they do that.
That was crazy. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like what? I
could not believe that, and it's actually like the lines that they say in the book. I was verklempt. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, that was cool. What else have I been up to? Last night I rewatched Howl's Moving Castle, which is a Hayao Miyazaki movie. I forgot how beautiful that movie is. It's just like every shot is gorgeous.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
I think while it's not my favorite of his movies, it is probably the height of his craft. Like that. Like if you like rank them by visual output, I think that is probably the most striking of his movies. Working on my timelines, you know how it is. I'm almost through the era of Kuruk, about to start Kyoshi in my timeline script. I'm like 17,000 words into my script. It's going to be a multi-hour video at this point. I've just kind of resigned myself to that fact. But I'm really excited about my Avatar timeline, and I've like really been like kicking myself in the butt for not like working on it harder. So I've the past week or so, I've written like 2,000 words into it. So I am moving. I'm moving, guys. Did anyone see the new Marvel movie?
Oh yeah, I saw Thunderbolts. I forgot to mention that.
No. I have not seen it, but
no, I haven't seen it yet. I'm half on the fence. So should I watch it in 40x? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm still I'm not sure if I may go and see it or I may wait until it streams. I'm not too sure.
I thought it was
Rich, tell us your thoughts.
It was really fun. I thought that I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's exactly like Guardians or anything like that. I mean, it does have some similar kind of overtones of being a team and like that team being a family. But, I don't think that's got to be particular just to Marvel. I just think that it's something that tends to work really well. I think it's a formula of flawed characters coming together and in their unity no longer being flawed, or realizing that they were never flawed to begin with type of story.
Interesting. Okay.
That's just a good story to tell.
In general,
I think
and it's
people will connect.
timeless,
Yeah, people connect with it. You immediately allow for somebody to be self-deprecating or many characters to be self-deprecating. So I think it's. I mean, like, I thought it was funny. I thought there were moments that were like emotionally gripping. I mean, I'm not going to say it was the most, emotionally gripping movie I've ever watched in my entire life, but there were some moments where, I definitely felt for the characters. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I also, I've kind of said this before. I tend to go to these things with the intention of enjoying it, right? Like, I'm excited. I'm like, yay, I get to see these things on screen.
Right, yeah.
I think all of us really.
You go in super optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, all of us grew up reading this stuff, right? And really, there was nothing ever around other than, like, for me, I remember at first was watching the Superman movies on Channel 11 in New York when they came on. And that's all there really was. So I just love seeing it on the big screen. I just love seeing it at all. And I like when Marvel takes a shot or just gives us some of the characters that are not the, not the ones that we always see, because someone's the ones that are off the beaten path.
Yeah, I've heard that this is basically like Breakfast Club, but for superheroes.
Yeah, that's actually really apropos. I think that's perfect. And it's funny, Breakfast Club is, I mean, I don't even know, like, I feel like it's almost like cliche to say it, but it's in my top 5 like, if you're taking out any kind of science fiction or superhero stuff, right? You're just like, name your top 3 favorite movies. Breakfast Club is there. So
very cool. Good to know. I
love this movie.
I feel like we unlock new rich lore every week, and I think that that's important.
Rich lore is a lot of the listeners, they know about our lore, and our lore goes back many years, but they're trying to they have to catch up on the rich lore.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I don't even know some of my lore sometimes. I didn't even know that I made a podcast about Tales of the Empire until like 20 minutes ago.
I listened to that.
But
I remember where I was in my backyard while I was doing yard work this summer when I listened to that episode.
That's incredible. I mean, it is actually kind of cool though. Like when you listen to something or you experience something, your brain kind of marks where you were in your life with that media. And a lot of times, like, I'll re-listen to audiobooks that I've listened to like years ago, and I'll be like, oh man, I remember being like on this job site doing this electrical task that I would have never thought of again. But yeah,
dude, isn't that insane? I've had there's some like episodes of like certain podcasts that, like, when I'll scroll over it and be like, oh man, yeah, I remember when I used to work at Publix, I would like listen to these episodes like when I was closing in like the nighttime. And Rich, for you who may not know what Publix is.
Oh, I know Publix.
Sure. You know Publix?
Oh,
okay.
Man. Our family vacations, we'd land in Miami Beach, we'd go to 65th and Collins, check into the Bel Air Hotel, and then the first thing was we had to go to Publix. We had to go get our food for the 2 weeks that we were staying there.
Oh, okay. Do you get any of the pub subs?
We got the pub subs. I mean, my grandfather's favorite thing was that there's fresh Cuban bread, like, actually in the bakery. So that we would get that.
I grew up on that Winn-Dixie lifestyle.
Oh, Winn-Dixie. That was a little bit out of the Miami Beach environs.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. No, I lie. I lived right next to Publix. I don't know what I'm saying.
I was gonna say, Dakota, I think like the closest, like when you were living down here, I think the closest Winn-Dixie would have been in
Homestead. Yeah, it would have been.
No, there was one in Cutler Bay, but like it would have taken you like extra time to get there. Like you might as well have just gone to that Publix.
Yep. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's talk about Andor season 2 because we got a lot to talk about, and we're like almost 40 minutes into this. But
man.
I'm gonna. I forgot to crack open this beer, so I'm gonna do that.
I thought you were cracking open like a Slim Jim or something.
No, but this does happen to be a juicy IPA.
Oh,
It's the Sam Adams New England Juicy IPA. And I saw it in the store, and I was just like, I gotta grab it. And it's actually pretty high alcohol content, considering it's just like a Sam Adams like can of beer. It's 7%. So, and it is actually juicy. It says it's tropical and refreshing, and I have to admit, I'm not the biggest IPA fan. I like them. I like the occasional IPA. This is like a really refreshing one. I'm not sponsored at all. We love the word juicy here on this podcast, and the reason we love the word juicy is because when you guys review our podcast with 5 stars, those are 5 juicy stars. And so wherever you're listening to this, if you haven't already rated our podcast, and you want to get more people involved in listening to the show so that we can grow as a podcast, please be sure to leave us a review, specifically a juicy review, a 5-star review. And on with the show.
Dude,
don't forget to pick up a pack of Juicy Fruit. Also, the official gum sponsor of this podcast.
What was this episode being sponsored? And I didn't know. Like, the Dakota's got this juicy IPA that just I guess goes well with our plea for your guys to rate our podcast. But yeah,
I cracked this open, and it's like all over my computer screen.
Alrighty, yes. Let's hop into this second half of Andor season. I almost said Andor season 2. I mean Andor season 1.
All right, so we have our boy Cassian Andor. He's in hiding, basically. He's gone to what's the planet called? Niamos? Yeah, the planet's called Niamos. It's basically like Miami, but like a whole planet of Miami. It's very laid-back culture, except for those pesky Imperials that they just happen to be there, and he happens to be there at the wrong time, and they catch him for something he is not even involved with, and they make up fake charges for him, and he's sentenced to 6 years in jail. I mean, he did deserve. Let's put it clear. He did break the law several times. He killed 2 of the Preox Morlana people. He killed a couple more on Ferrix when they attacked there, and then he stole 80 million credits or something from Aldani, and he helped that theft. So there was definitely stuff to catch this guy on and send him to jail. But the charges they made up were made up. It was just so crazy.
That I was gonna say that out of everything that they could have charged him for, they made up charges to throw him into jail. Had they got him for the actual stuff he did, he would have been in jail for life.
Oh yeah.
No, they would have executed him. Actually, they would have executed him. Maybe not so much for what happened on Ferrix, but definitely what happened on Aldani. They would have just killed him for that.
Or ISB would have had that him interrogated with that stuff that they were interrogating Bix with, which is we'll talk about that later.
It's what is it like? Just creepy VR.
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting. I guess the Empire had to kill a population of sentient creatures that were supposedly rebelling, and their death cries are almost melodic, but in a way that it's just heartbreaking and soul rending. Yeah, that the idea that it's children dying, listening to the deaths of children while they're singing is such a creepy torture tactic. It's super Nazi-esque, you think of all the crazy experiments that they were doing to people in some of the concentration camps. And a lot of times in Star Wars, the Empire is visualized as the Nazis. They have that look, the uniforms, the marches and stuff.
Right. They were definitely, the Empire was definitely inspired. I mean, you got stormtroopers, which were literal. They literally existed within the ranks of the Nazis.
Yes, the literal term is stormtrooper. Yeah, it comes from the Nazi Party. But so he gets sent to Narkina 5, which is a crazy concept for a prison.
Yeah, it made me think of like the raft, but instead of in the water, they're above the water.
Yeah, what did you think of the prison, Rich?
I like the prison a lot. I won't lie. The way he gets caught.
I'm a tourist.
It's just. Oh, it was so, I guess, tropey. I don't know. Maybe it's because it wasn't enough time. Like, it was just so quick. Like, he was, and it was obviously because, it's just so fast. They might as well just done it a montage. Just made like an 80s style movie montage where like Bix is like basically like, well, like, no, we can't do that. You can't. That just won't work. And then he runs off and starts to be wanton, and then some crazy party music's playing, and then he gets taken down because it was just a little too quick for me, and obviously just so rife with the world's in such a bad place, or the universe is such a bad place, the galaxy is such a bad place that you do real crimes and you don't get caught for it, but it's so corrupt that you can get swept up by the law for no reason. And that part was just a little, it was heavy-handed because it was quick. And
I do like the idea that the Empire doesn't know that they have Cassian Andor in custody. They're looking for this guy.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I like
and he's
that.
in prison.
But, like, I would have liked... What if he's there... Why isn't he there for... Look, he's there for a week. He's not just, like, hooking up with some lady friend and, like, possibly getting, like, high or drunk or whatever, right?
You're asking me? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the thing is that they're not going to add, like, unnecessary scenes to the show. Obviously, like, this show is not the show that, if you want a show that has some sort of filler in it, this is not that show. This is just not going to be that show. And the thing is that, like, the way that they, like, span time, I mean, you could make that same argument for what was going down on Aldhani. The man got there and then, like, just instantly, like, now he's just, like, storming that dam.
Well, I mean, more like the idea that I guess what I didn't like about it was the association that because he wasn't staying and he was kind of running away, right? That he kind of got punished for running away and, like, trying to kind of live his best life.
But that was the point, though.
I know,
that was the point. That literally the point of the whole show. It's all the culmination of stuff like that, and it shows at the end of this season. And the end of the season, so in that very moment, it's showing how corrupt the Empire is, and they're just like they're trying to grab like anybody that looks like. I mean, to be. I mean, if you want to be candid, like, he was looking a little suspicious. He was looking over his shoulder. I mean, he wasn't doing anything wrong. Looking suspicious, might not be bad, but he was kind of looking over his shoulder, especially with those guys kind of like running around. So, I mean, you could make that argument like, okay, maybe he was a part of them because he's looking kind of, these guys are running. And he's looking like.
I think I left that part. Okay. That helps.
So yeah, like, and even like the stormtrooper was like, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you looking like over your shoulder like that? Why are you looking so suspicious? Like, are you running with them? And so, like, but yeah, so like it was that instance, like the fact that he got caught and then he got just thrown into prison for 6 years for something that he didn't do. That is just showing the corruption of the Empire. All of what happens, like, especially, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, is just showing, it's like peeling off layers of what the Empire really is, and it's showing like how bad how bad they really are. And this is just one facet of that.
I really like this prison arc.
I do too.
As an electrician, I really like the concept of just using electricity as your motivating factor, for the prisoners to, like, stay on top of things. It's a very clean aesthetic throughout the entire prison arc. Like, it's a very almost sterile. It's obviously cruel. Like, everything that they're doing is very cruel, especially the fact that, like, the team that performs worst gets zapped while the other teams get to eat. That's crazy. That's it's actually like extremely cruel.
And like the best table gets flavor in their food.
Oh,
beautiful.
beautiful.
In their slop. It's not even food. It's literally slop.
A little bit of salt, please.
Bland slop. Ugh.
It's the blue milk from Octu.
It's the
blue milk that's like 3 months old.
Yeah. What do you guys think about how this arc progresses from beginning to end? So we have Cassian taken in to this prison. We have him start to like the moment he gets in, actually, he's like looking and he's counting the guards. He's seeing what he's up against. He's actually a very like tactical person. And I don't think he was like,
seriously.
Maybe he was formally trained by Marva and his father, his adoptive father, but we don't really know what his training is. He just happens to have that mentality of like, I got to get out of this, and he's going to find a way. And he takes that knowledge, and as they learn more about what's happening in other sections of the prison, they start to form a plan of like escape. And it's such a exhilarating arc, like by the end you're so pumped up with adrenaline because you have seen like these people beaten and oppressed, and a lot of them, it seems, aren't even in there for reasons that they are deserving to be imprisoned for, like Andor, they made up charges for him, like, so I'm assuming the other people aren't, I mean, maybe some of them were criminals or whatever, but to be treated in that way is inhumane, even if it looked really clean and sterile,
And like the fact that like, I guess like one of the things that like really like started that off was the fact that a guy that was supposed to be like transferred to that prison just got transferred to another floor.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's poor. I actually feel bad for Kino, because he's a believer, like he's a believer in the system. Whether he actually did anything wrong in his past life to get him into prison or not, he realizes, or he believes through and through. Kino Loy is the character played by Andy Serkis. Fantastic job by him, by the way. But yeah, he believes wholeheartedly that if he does the right thing, if he leads his team to producing the most whatever the item is, we find out later in the season in like an after the credits thing, like what those items that they're building are. But he believes that by doing so, he will, get out and just be out in the real world finally. He's got like 200 something days left. That all comes crashing down when he finds out that because of some new mandate by the Empire, they're not letting anyone out. They're just sending them right back to other floors so that, they can, just keep this machine churning. It's really psychologically crazy. And that's his breaking point, prior to this point, we have Andor asking him like how many guards per floor, and he doesn't say anything. He's very like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. And then as soon as he finds out that they're not planning on releasing anyone, and he's so close to being released, he's got less than a year left. That's his breaking point. The way that one episode ends, where he's just like, never more than 12. I remember watching that live, like the day that Andor episode came out, and that was like the big thing on Twitter that week, is like never more than 12. It's just such a powerful, succinct line that just like, it's like a calling card. Like, yeah, we're all watching Andor. We all know what this means. It's epic.
That and then like the following week you got One Way Out.
Dude, it doesn't get better.
Yeah, man. Seriously, man. That monologue was just, it was so strong. And dude, I
which
love
monologue was that? Which one? I don't remember.
Oh, you're talking about the monologue about just
about
how
the podcast,
how the algorithm is trying to oppress us and push us down.
They're keeping our podcast down.
That there's only one way out,
And but there's three of us.
Definitely, hearing that monologue, and like it got you pumped up, man. Like, as the viewer, you're like, yeah, man, like, I kind of want to break out with them, but it was it was crazy, and like at the end, it really did show that like Andy Serkis did like care about these people, because he literally did this whole breakout thing, and like he got stuck. He couldn't swim.
Oh, it's the
Why
worst. It's like
it gave me flashback to Titanic though, where I'm like, Jack could have probably stayed on that piece of wood with you, and I just feel like enough guys care about him that, you know, they could have formed like a swim circle.
I was thinking that too.
I don't understand why like there was no attempt. Like I don't he's not it's not lava. Like he's not going to die the minute he hits the water, right? And he had men who cared about him, and now he inspired the entire group out. I mean, they're
it's it's an interesting thing you bring that up, because in the next episode after they break out, we have Cassian and one of the prisoners, Melshi, trying to make it out alive before, like the Empire's like finds them, basically. So we don't actually know how many people realistically A, made it to shore, B, got to where they needed to be safely, and C, escaped the planet. And I think the consensus, or what we're supposed to take from that, is it was extremely difficult after getting out of the prison to also stay alive, because it's not like they all like grouped up together. They all separated, I guess, for the sake of, like remaining under cover, while the Empire was looking for everybody. The strength in numbers would only go so far there. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how we're really supposed to take that. Like, would he have made it even if he did jump?
Yeah, that's
food for thought. Bland food for slot.
I won't I won't lie. Like, I'm not sure if this is direct, but I get a little bit of Luke, not complete Luke vibes, right? But just like, if R2 doesn't leave the Lars homestead, Luke is dead, right? Like, it's like these small moments of happenstance, right, that continually happen to him, and I wonder if we're learning that Andor is, I don't know, like, does he have like extra, like, it's almost like he's like Domino with like extra luck, like, what did he have to be where he had to be so that like this would happen that way? It's
very interesting that you mentioned that after this week's episodes, the episodes that came out this week that Anthony has not watched yet. Without spoiling anything, it does, like, the episodes do touch on the fact that Andor is always where he needs to be. And we don't know why he, in a cosmic sense, is always where he needs to be. And always relaying messages to people who need to hear them. But, in the case of this episode, like the case of them in Narkina 5's prison, we know that he was a catalyst. He was the voice that needed to relay the message, basically, not only to, get Kino on board to, like, be the catalyst that gets the guy who speaks for everybody on board, but after the fact, like when they're back on Niamos in the next episode with, him and Melshi. Melshi says, you need to tell people about this. We need to tell people about this. Like, he's Cassian's a messenger. We don't really, and I guess even throughout like Rogue One, he is a messenger. He needs to get the message of the Death Star plans to the Rebel Alliance. Like, that's something that's in his future. So it's interesting that they're writing him this way, and it's an interesting question. Like does he, like, is there a greater purpose to him?
And I don't mean that I think he's by any stretch of the imagination a Jedi, right?
No,
but
yeah.
In a world where it does seem that the Force has its will, right? Is he almost an instrument of that will who's not a user himself?
Well, I'm going to forego this question for now because I have strong thoughts on it, and it's very spoilery.
Okay.
So, yes, let's talk about it is a really good question, Rich.
Because I almost think he's almost like a Han figure, right? In that, like, Han was never Force sensitive, right? He's not.
Right.
He couldn't control the Force in any way, but it seemed like the Force had a plan for Han, and he played pivotal roles in the lives of people who were Force users, almost maybe grounding them, but also being in the right place at the right time.
Well, it is interesting that the show is called Andor, and so much of the show is focused on other people and other people's plights. And he always just happens to be there. You know, he always happens to be there at the right time. So I do think you're onto something with the Force fating him to be where he's needed.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I also like it's showing how he's definitely like a part of that spearhead for at least the initial rise of the rebellion. What I mean, and we also briefly spoke about him showing up, but I mean, in this second half, we get Saw Gerrera again, and like it's cool that we get Forrest Whitaker reprising that role also.
Yeah, what a
cool.
Fantastic actor. He with Saw Gerrera, it's nothing like the character from Clone Wars. You know, like we know that Saw Gerrera is a Clone Wars character. So Forrest Whitaker, he just made that character his own, and he did his own thing with him, and I love every second of him on screen because he's just nuts. He's just absolutely insane. Like, what call it nose?
Yeah, man. It's so cool because I liked him a lot in Rogue One. So the fact that like he's in this show, it really is fitting because, you know, he had like he wasn't in the entirety of Rogue One, but he was a really strong character in that. So like getting him in this and like his initial, I guess, like rebellion sect days, it's really cool.
And I think if I remember correctly, Forrest Whitaker was the first Academy Award-winning actor to ever be in Star Wars, like specifically Academy Award-winning actor for Best Actor, to ever be in Star Wars. And yeah, the guy acts his heart out, and you could tell he's having fun. Mm-hmm. Like you could tell, like he loves that character. He loves reprising that role, and he just eats the heck out of those like few scripts that he's given.
Yeah, no, he does. He's when he's shown on screen, it's like really strong, and yeah, that moment between him and Luthen is really cool.
All right, let's jump over to the second half of this second half of Andor season 1. We have the death of Marva, Marva, and. Sorry, I love B2 Emo so much.
Yes, me too.
He is like the most dog-like droid in the entire Star Wars canon. I think like I can't think of another droid that is more of a dog, like a literal like pet dog. You know, like everything that he does is so pet-like, and I love it. I love it so much. He's just like an old dog. It's such a great addition to the show.
And I do like that there's such care for him. Like even you know like when Marva passes away, it's like the people that cared about Marva knew that like they would want them. They knew that she would want them to take care of B, and you know and he's just like you could tell he's so sad. Also,
I know. Yeah.
It's so interesting, and you've said it before, Dakota, that Star Wars has a way of giving something like something that's not like real, like feelings. You know, you get it with C-3PO. You even get it a little bit with. I mean, you get it with R2-D2, and you don't even know what R2-D2 is saying, but like. You know, that he's given off some like, you know, attitude and little zest, and so B is, you know, you could tell that B is mourning, and it's really cool. Like, you know, just that kind of like last thing that he does for Marva.
I like, and yeah, I forgot that I had mentioned that on the podcast at some point. But that's something that I've always like really found quite wonderful about Star Wars is in any other science fiction property, whether it be Star Trek or Terminator, Battlestar Galactica, anything that has robots or whatever, or androids, there's a divide between sentient life, which is humans, and the robots. There's the distinct lack of a soul given to them in the writing. And a lot of the times, you know, a good portion of their arc is finding that soul. You know, like I think of Star Trek The Next Generation. Data, he's on a constant quest to be a real boy. You know, he's a Pinocchio character. He's constantly trying to, you know, make himself feel real. But in Star Wars, you never have that question. These are sentient beings of another life form. You know, like it's another form of life, just mechanical. You know, like these are just as pertinent characters as the flesh and blood ones. You know, like they have their own emotions. They have, and you know, a lot of times they are treated lesser. You know, like we don't serve their kind here. But there is something to be said about like the emotions that the droids share. The like you can tell if R2-D2 is sad or if he's scared by the way that he intonates.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
with B2 Emo, by the way, I love that name, because he's always being too emo. I that has to be intentional. But anyway, yeah, with him, they wrote him like a dog that can talk. I almost think it sounds like Doug from Up. You know, like, my name is Doug and I love you. That's the vibe that I get from B. But yeah, I've always wanted to make a video or like an essay or of some kind about comparing droids in Star Wars to androids and robots in other franchises, because there's something to be said about like how we don't even question that these are characters with like their own initiative in Star Wars, but we have to question it in other franchises. You know, like, are they programmed? What are they? Why, you know, why is this android, an alien, doing the bidding of Wayland Yutani? Like, what is going on with this android? Like, what is his programming telling him to do? You don't really have that question in Star Wars because it's just a different type of being, you know? Anyway, I'm rambling like crazy, but yeah, so Marva died. Not good. But she literally made the most of her death. And it was a wonderfully written cry and plea to her people to continue fighting against the Empire, and it totally backfired on the Empire for allowing them to have that funeral. So good.
Yeah, seriously. And it's so wild, like how much, like, and it kind of harkens back to you talking about the culture in Ferrix, and it's very obvious that a lot, like most of the people they cared about Marva. And they cared about, you know, Cassian, even if Cassian owed half of them money or something like that. You know, I think it was because of Marva and his, you know, he was her adoptive son, so that care kind of carried on over to that, and you know, just you could tell that Cassian was just breaking on the inside when he found out that she had passed away, and you know how everybody, you know, was just like, you know, man, I'm so sorry. And he even tried to be like, you know, I tried to take her with me. You know, I you know, the last thing the last thing that happened when we talked was we were arguing, and you know that, and Brasso was like, you know, don't do that to yourself. And so, you know, this is kind of like where you're talking about like how you really like Brasso. Like it really shows why, even more so, why he's such a great character, you know?
Yeah, I love how he starts beating people with the brick of Marva's remains. Like that's how Marva would want to go out, you know? Just like
That was awesome.
the funniest thing is that like if she was there to witness that, she would be like, yeah, like she would be like, yeah, use me to bash him in. And when that happens, like obvious when they were doing that whole like procession, I was just like, yeah, like, you know, I mean, especially in that first time that I had seen it, you know, like you just know something's happening. There's just like this tension that's building up, and it's not just grief. There's some anger that's happening there. Yeah. And yeah, that call to fight from Marva was really just a straw that broke the camel's back, something that was already building up. And so, yeah, like, and then you saw like the Empire just like lighting them up, you know, they started shooting at them. And so it's like, yeah, this is, you know, Ferrix gonna be one of those things that people talk about, like, you know, this is how the Empire is. You know, they were shooting into a crowd of mourning people, you know, even though like I know that they like kind of started to attack them, but a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, but they started shooting at people who weren't shooting at them. They were unarmed, you know?
Totally. And I love that this was all orchestrated by the Empire as a trap for Andor, and they never come close to catching this guy. Even though he just shows up, he's on the streets of this planet somehow. Like they're not like, there's no perimeter around this site. Like I love the fact that like Andor's coming, increased security everywhere, and he's just walking the streets like.
That's I'm
in like the sewers or something, you know, like they didn't even think that like he would be trying to go down in like that area. Like he had this like whole little hideout down there with Brasso and was it Palenka?
Oh, I don't remember the guys. Oh, I think it is Palenka. Yeah. What were you saying, Rich? What were you saying?
Yeah. I mean, what you guys are talking about just kind of really just keeps feeding into my idea that this guy's fated to be where he has to be, damn to the odds, because it's just a little you know. And look, the truth is, in any type of story where the good guy is one, you know, is vastly outnumbered, you know, unless it's a George R. Martin story, because then the guy will get his just desserts for trying to fight for justice. But in these types of stories, you know, there is a little bit of a conceit, I think. But I still feel like it leads a little bit to this guy just, you know, being a tool of the Force.
Yeah, it almost has that I am one with the Force and the Force is with me.
Yep.
Kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah, it is an interesting way to look at it. And I think going back to this first season after watching the most recent episodes is a really interesting thought process, because it changes the way that you perceive the character of Andor. Again, Anthony, you gotta catch up. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on the Gorman massacre.
There's also like you guys are kind of talking about, like, you know, how he's just like kind of navigating stuff without getting caught. You know, he also like goes into that hotel that they're holed up in.
Oh yeah,
to save Bix, and he only had like one guy that he had to take down.
Dude, they're so stupid. In all of that big trap that they set out for them, they were so preoccupied with like looking for this guy, they were not paying attention to what was actually being done on, you know, like the outrage that was like building up in the crowd until it was way too late. You know, like they let that build to a boiling point, and then they tried to shut it down way too late. And that's obviously, you know, like when Brasso started bricking people.
Dude, he was just like throwing down on them.
I love that scream of triumph. Like he like raises his hands and like one of the hands has a brick and he's just like, ah, and it's just the war cry for the Ferrix people. Love this. I love that moment. And also like Marva's speech too is another. There's no shortage of good speeches in this show. Like we haven't even touched upon like Luthen's speech to that ISB agent Lonnie. Where he talks about like how much he sacrificed, like, you know, how every waking moment for the past 15 years based on like a calculation that he made like after the Empire came into effect, has like led him down this path, and there's no going back. And dude, Stellan Skarsgård, just such a phenomenal actor.
Right. Like he already was in his own right in other things, but like he really brought that he brought that energy to this show. And you know, it's crazy because like you know, he shows up, we get him a lot more than we get say like Saw Gerrera, but like even then, like Forrest Whitaker, an amazing actor in his own right, bringing that energy to the show. Diego Luna, really just like killing this character. Like you can tell that like he enjoys like being this character of Cassian Andor because I feel like he brings his all to it.
Yeah, Rich, what did you think of Marva's speech inciting the people around her in her death?
I thought it was great. I mean, I actually kind of like Luthen's a little bit more just because, not that there's more truth to his, but just it felt more real.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt, I could really feel like his sacrifice where, Marva's kind of like, this is her last fiery stand and this is how she wanted to go out. So in many ways it was like beautiful and, inspiring and altogether, where Luthen's is just so dark, and it makes me think of when he puts on the wig, right, and just kind of like how that creepy, that fake, the smile that we know to be hollow and fake just overtakes him. Like he just becomes that guy, and it's like that speech kind of proves to us like that he is nobody anymore, right? There's no defining Luthen characteristic because at every turn he will do what is necessary, and that takes him further and further away from the person he once was. So, and I think that is actually like why he likes Lonnie so much.
Mm-hmm. Like he's not willing to get rid of that contact within the ISB because not only has he been like grooming Lonnie to like be the perfect plant for the past 6 years, but I think he sees a lot of himself in Lonnie in the sense that like this is another person who is constantly acting, constantly putting on a front to eventually bring down the Empire. It's a very nuanced show. Like in pretty much every instance, it's so nuanced. With Marva, one thing that I liked that she said was she had previously felt uplifted by the speeches made from other dead people, basically. So now it was her turn, and she was like so willing to make that a reality. And it's interesting the part where she says like she's looking at the crowd, and obviously to her she's not actually looking at the crowd, she's looking at the droid that she's recording this on, and she says, it's funny, I can see, it's almost as if I can see you there. Like it's so real to her. Like this is going to happen. This is what's going to incite this, brief insurrection against the Empire. And it's just so beautifully done. And so there's so much of this show that I find builds upon itself in meaningful ways, and almost like once an episode, at least once or twice every arc, there's a crescendo moment where something builds up to a boiling point and it just all goes down. And it never disappoints. Even like the lesser arcs within the two seasons, they're still written extremely strongly. Like there's still strong episodes and, powerful additions to the Star Wars canon. And while I don't personally think this Ferrix arc is the strongest of the show or the season in general, the moment where the marching band starts up and B2 Emo is like leading the people down Rick's Road toward the plaza, and dude, it's just like you get chills. That it's just so powerful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It like, it's a season finale that ends at least strong enough,
100%.
100%. Yeah. What did you think about Luthen trying to, for a good portion of this season, the latter half especially, he wants to kill Andor, and he's sent Vel to do so. Vel and Cinta. What are your thoughts on that, Rich?
I mean, I don't blame him. These are the decisions he has to make. It's not. There's no part of me that disagrees with what he intended to do. It sucked, but he loses contact, and there's a guy who knows who he is, and knows his face, and knows his motivations in some way, right? I mean, I'm going to use a word that I'm not sure you're supposed to use anymore. He seems like he's grooming Andor for bigger things, right? In the
you could say grooming when it's in all
right.
when it's in something.
Well,
like
in
that.
school, I can't say it at school anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't say it in that context,
really? Okay.
right? Like, it's a little bit too taboo. But yeah, in the traditional sense of a mentor-mentee type relationship, it's almost like he was tough loving kind of Andor, and now he's almost a little bit hurt and also needs to protect himself. So, had to kind of go at him. But I almost felt like, was it half-hearted? I don't know. It feels like everything else he does works. So is it just...
So it's interesting, his relationship to Andor, and this harkens back to what we've been saying or like hinting at, because we don't know what Andor's, role... I mean, we know what Andor's role in the universe is ultimately, but we don't understand if there is any like Force involvement truly with Andor. But it's interesting that in the beginning of this season, Luthen breaks his own protocol that he has, adopted for the past 15 years to take this one dude, put him on a job that he would have never thought to do, and he does the job. And like when he finally comes back to Coruscant, he's reprimanded by Clea, his secretary, because whoa, what are we doing? Why did you make this really random decision? And he doesn't know. He doesn't have an answer for that. Like, why did he do that? And so, later on, he's just like, oh, well, yeah, I guess we'll have to kill this guy because he knows my face. But in the moment, he's 100%, pro Andor. Like, this is the guy we need. For some reason, he knows that this is the guy we need. And then later, like, once Andor shows up in his ship, the Fondor, at the end of the season, he's almost given that same opportunity of like, do I take this guy in or do I kill him? And he ends up, choosing to take him in. And it's almost against his better judgment. And he starts to like smile and laugh a little bit about it. And it's just like, there's something about this Andor guy that is important. And it's almost like on a cosmic level. He has something guiding him and protecting him, and it's a really interesting thought dynamic, and it's definitely worth studying almost, like, because this show is worth studying. Mm-hmm. Like it's a masterclass in not only Star Wars but writing in general.
No, I agree.
But like they don't really ever use the term Force until... Sorry, Anthony. They only use the term the Force until like the 9th episode of season 2. Like that's the first time the Force is ever mentioned, I think, in this show. So it is like interesting, like almost how you can read between the lines in this show and experience it through the lens of there being some level of spirituality guiding our characters' actions. Like it's a really interesting thought process. And I'm rambling at this point because I'm so enthralled by the idea of like there being something more to Andor than we know, or we will ever know, really, because I almost like the idea of it being a mystery, But yeah, what are your thoughts, guys? Anthony, what are your thoughts on Luthen, like going back and forth on killing Andor?
Like you said, Rich kind of said, I do understand like why he initially like went for that idea. I mean, Andor at that point was kind of like a loose cannon, and it looked like he was swinging into a direction that could have brought down a lot of what Luthen was building up, when in reality Andor didn't really like care to just rat on anybody. He just wanted to get his money and go. But the fact that like Andor is like, I know I saw you and I know that you're here to kill me. Well, look, here I am. Here's an opportunity. So in a way, it's kind of shown him that like, look, I'm giving you this easy way to take me out, but it's also inviting him like, I have more to offer. And so, obviously that's why, we have Andor season 2.
We have Andor season 2. All right, guys. What are your last thoughts on not only these 6 episodes, but the first season of Andor in general? Rich,
I like you touched on earlier. Like I kind of started the show with. I appreciated this so much more after watching the second one, and this isn't a flashback kind of scenario. This isn't I remember I said that with the Rings of Power, where I thought that the pacing was it was just such an expansive story that, they didn't fit it into the season the right way. I don't have that criticism of Andor. I don't believe that anything from season 2 needed to be in season 1 for me to enjoy season 1 more. I just think that season 2 is so good and makes you ask so many questions that when you go back and watch season 1, it just makes it a much more fulfilling experience. It's
well said. Yeah, no, it's well said. Anthony, go ahead.
Dude, this is, I kind of said it in the first part of these 2 episodes, but yeah, man, like I said, this show it's like it has no right to be as good as it is, but it is, and just hopping on and watching it's such a treat. It was a treat the first time, and it was a treat the second time around. And yeah, man, season 2 has been shaping up to be really good, and that one's about to, that series finale is about to drop soon. So let's enjoy it now while we're in the moment.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, no, this first episode, or this first season of Andor, I remember, and I've said it many times on the show, like, I cannot believe that they made a prestige Star Wars show, and it actually works. It's as good as anything on HBO and anything on Apple TV or Amazon Prime. It's that level of television. And rewatching season 1 while season 2 is airing has been a really, I think, eye-opening experience. Like Rich said, it just contextualizes everything that happened in the past so much more. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I really did enjoy rewatching this first season of Andor. But guys, we're gonna bring this podcast to a close, and ultimately, there's only one way out, and the only way out is to click the stop button on our record. So we're gonna have to wind this down. I'm sorry to say, we're gonna have to wind this down. But again, if you want to give this a juicy 5-star review, please, you're more than welcome to. Anytime at all. Juicy 5-star reviews are welcome. And if you'd like to check out any of our socials, you can click down into the show notes to find what we're rambling about on our respective socials. So thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Peace out, y'all.
the Wolverine.
Stay juicy, my friends.